This is Derrick Parker, Regional Vice President. Hey, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the two different types of products that we offer as it relates to life insurance. Life insurance, as we always talk about, is probably the third or fourth largest resource that a lot of people, or third largest thing that people purchase, but probably the least researched. So essentially what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk to you exclusively about Primerica products, okay? As you know, Primerica is a 100% term-based company, meaning we don't deal with other life insurance products that have cash value tied to it, because our crusade, which started 40 years ago, has a lot to do with really showing the consumer how to buy term and invest the difference. So today I'm going to talk to you about some of the two competing term products that we have. They're similar in nature. There's just the underwriting requirements are a little bit different, but one of them being Term Now, okay, and then the other one is going to be Custom Advantage. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about those products today. You may be newly licensed and you may be really attentive to this, or you may be currently licensed and you want to really expound and learn a little bit more about how these products vary. Now, I would encourage you to certainly go on Primerica Online, on POL. There's a lot of different videos. There's Cheryl Bartlett. There's Dwayne Morrow that talks a little bit about life insurance in terms of our crusade. But I'm going to speak to you specifically as it relates to our office and how we use these products and why they're very, very, very unique. So let's jump right in. So the first product that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about is Term Now. So Term Now, just so you can know this, you're probably going to use Term Now probably about 98% of the time, okay? So it's a very, very simplified process as far as getting someone approved for life insurance. It's relatively easy. It's all going to be done via turbo application, so it's going to be done electronically. And if you input all the information accurately, normally your client, if everything goes well, they could be approved within 3 to 5 days. Okay, so very, very expeditious process as far as getting Term Now. Now, it's called Term Now, and the reason why I say 3 to 5 days, I want to give a little caveat. Normally, if I, as a regional vice president, if I do a turbo app via Term Now, and basically the client, the process is approved pretty expeditiously, they could be approved immediately, meaning I could input the application and I can go to my email and essentially pull it up and the client has been approved. Now, the reason why I say 3 to 5 days for our agents is because we basically flag, okay, we flag every life insurance application that comes through our office. So essentially what that means is you input a life insurance application, it goes through our virtual base shop, and there it's flagged, meaning the regional vice president has to basically sign off on it. And really what we do is we want to make sure that your quality of business is in place, that you're writing good, healthy business. There's no liabilities in that business, meaning there's no cancers or something questionable. So we want to ensure that our agents in our office are writing good quality business, and we want to make sure that we protect them to ensure that they're writing good quality business. Because if your business is intact and you have a good quality of business index, that means that you're continuously getting paid via Primerica, you feel good, and you don't have a big chargeback label on your head. No one likes chargebacks in our business. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit further about this Term Now process. So essentially when you're submitting an application, just know that 98% of the time you're going to be doing a Term Now feature, for your applicant. So let me just kind of talk a little bit about some of the qualifying entities as far as working with Term Now. So just so you know, this is a great brochure. You can go on Primerica Online and you can pull up this application, these brochures. They run 10 cents. I recommend you give this brochure to every client. It's really simple. It's user friendly. It kind of talks about how our business is done, and it's very, very exciting in terms of really keeping it simple. So let me just kind of give you an age requirement on writing Term Now. It's usually between the ages of 18 and 45. okay? And essentially you can go up to $300,000 in life insurance. So you may be thinking, well, why 18? Well, 18 is basically, that is, we don't write policies under the age of 18. And the reason being is anything below that is not our market. So if you're going to write a policy for an adult and you want to cover children under the age of 18, you can essentially do what is called a child rider, okay? So a child rider is very, very unique in that we have what is called an unlimited rider. So what that means is the price for charging one child would be the same if you if you had 10 children on a child rider. So essentially 10,000 would be $6 and some change. If they added 10 children, it would be the same $6 and some change one time. That's pretty phenomenal. So 18 to 45, you can basically write a term now application. Now let me just kind of take you through some of the added features of writing a term now application. And really it says it here, just a little bit in the labeling of why it's so key. Historically, I could tell you, there used to be a time where in order to write life insurance in our business, you had to get these OraSure saliva kits. The client had to put it in their mouth. You had to write it, on an application. You had to take, some things from the sticker from the OraSure kits and put it on the application. It got very messy, and sometimes people will put things in that mouth and they'll come out and you'll be like, I ain't touching that. So really, Term Now is very, very user friendly, really simple. Let me just kind of talk to you a little bit about it's easy and it's coverage your family deserves. So basically, they're going to answer. It says 7 basic questions. There's no needle sticks for a blood sample. There's no medical exam. You receive your acceptance electronically at myprimerica.com and by your Primerica email, and you are insured with one of the leading innovators in term life insurance. So when you do this plan here at Term Now, there's really 3 things that you need to know when the client says, hey, look, you know what? How do I go about getting approved for this? What's essentially the process, okay? So let's just say you do electronic application. The uniqueness I love about our applications is if you're not doing it properly or maybe you missed something, the computer is going to prompt you exactly how to go fix that, and it's not going to let you proceed with errors. So we have a very, very proven system that's built for speed, and it's going to allow you to correct errors as you go along. So the 3 major, we call them data reports, okay, that they're going to look for. So a data report is essentially, the first thing you need to know is that we're regulated by whom? HIPAA. So that's the Health and Insurance Protection Act. So basically, HIPAA ensures that life insurance companies are not going to share information with other medical facilities. We're not going to share it with our competitors. It protects the confidentiality of your clients. So I really love that. So basically, a data report generated through HIPAA, essentially what's going to happen is they're going to look at 3 different reports. So the first thing that they're going to look for in a data report in order to get approved is they're going to look at the client's what we call medical report, okay? So this is all done electronically. So it used to be a time where you had to go get the medical records from each doctor and send it up to our underwriting department. Now this is all thanks to HIPAA. We can access those medical reports electronically, and so essentially they're going to look at the medical report. So really, this is streamlined to really outline if there's any flags. The underwriting is going to hold the application. I mean, they're going to hold it. They're going to wait for additional information. Maybe they're going to request for medical records, or maybe they may have some additional questions for the client. But if it's squeaky clean, they'll be fine. So they're going to look at the medical report. The second report they're going to look at is what's called the RX report. Okay, so that just means prescriptions. Now that's important because sometimes, you have clients tell you, hey, look, you know what? I never had cancer, never had any issues. But however, they're taking cancer medication. So that report will tell us whether or not the client is basically, on any type of meds. Now, when I say us, it's basically underwriting. We don't have no intervention at the agent level in terms of really assessing those reports. We don't know what's on them. I wouldn't want to know what's on them. It's all done via underwriting. So the only thing we have to do is just facilitate the right information. And then the third thing that they're going to look at is what is called the driver's license report. And sometimes people say, basically, what is the DL report for? Well, driving under influence, DUIs, any excessive motor vehicle. Yes, they could be rated if they have excessive moving violations. So that's just considered high risk. So if these three things are basically, we're going to submit an application and they're going to look at those three reports. If they're squeaky clean, the client will be approved like instantaneously. But keep in mind, as I mentioned, at the agent level, it's basically 3 to 5 days. Why? Because I have to look at it and make sure that it's okay. And then essentially, you'll get a notification by your Primerica email as to whether or not your client's been approved. So as you know, you have Life Manager where you can go track the application. You can make sure that our assistants, we put notes in there so you can interchangeably add notes, anything that you have. You should be connecting with your client on at least a weekly basis if you've submitted an application, just to keep them abreast of what's taking place. So Term Now is very, very simple. Just to kind of recap, very simplified. We know that the majority of our applications are under $300,000. So that's why Term Now is very attractive for a lot of people. Okay. I'll talk to you in a minute a little bit about the alternative, but let me kind of switch over to Custom Advantage, because as we said, Custom Advantage, about 2% of the time, you're going to utilize Custom Advantage. Now, Custom Advantage, we know that essentially Term Now goes up to $300,000. So guess what? Anything $300,000 and greater, of course, based on this 18 to 45, they're going to be punted to Custom Advantage. Now, I would use Custom Advantage particularly for someone who's, let's just say they want a high amount of life insurance. Maybe it's a motivated client. They're very responsible. They have the income. Maybe they have, they're a true five-pointer. They have the assets. They have the house. They have the retirement. They have everything in place. And I know usually for a higher end client, Custom Advantage, is going to be very, very attractive. Now, in addition to these data reports that I mentioned here, this is still going to be applicable on the Custom Advantage end. Now, however, here's some things that they're going to interject as far as on the Custom Advantage side. Number one, they may ask for what is called a APS. That's attending physician statement. Okay. In the majority of cases, it's approximately 100% of cases, if it's Custom Advantage, it's going to trigger blood and urine, and/or they could ask for an EKG. So as you can see, it's a little bit more invasive over here as far as doing Custom Advantage, and there's some much more requirements, whereas someone could essentially get approved relatively easy through Term Now. So APS, blood and urine, EKG, and then moreover, they could throw in what is called a tele-underwriting. So tele-underwriting just basically means it's a medical, it's a phone medical process. It's a phone medical exam, and basically what they're doing is the medical questions that you essentially ask them on the application, they're going to reiterate those same things right there. The client has to fulfill it. It usually takes about 10 minutes. They're going to, ask for their doctor. They're going to ask them the same questions as far as, whether or not they're healthy, they've had any diabetes, cancers, anything previously. So it's important that, if there is a tele-underwriting, because tele-underwriting could be triggered on this side as well. So it could, be triggered based on age, okay? So you have to look at the requirements. There's a grid that's going to show the requirements. So tele-underwriting could be requested over here as well. Usually if it is, it'll specify it in the grid as to whether or not that's required. But if there is a tele-underwriting, they'll ask you whether or not does a client prefer to have it in English or do they prefer to have it in Spanish. And it's important that your client is very consistent on the questions that they asked or that they answer to. So you ask them questions, they want to make sure that, hey, look, you know what, if they said they don't smoke, that needs to be consistent. If they don't have cancer, diabetes, that needs to be consistent, because you wouldn't want them to have, answer tele underwriting and now they start revealing all these things that are really taking place that are not true. So term down custom advantage, really in its simplified fashion. I tell you right now, we are truly an industry leader in basically selling term insurance. So you have to understand that, and there's some benefits that I do want to convey really lastly that you need to get across on each and every opportunity you have to help a family. Some of the more important benefits I do want to mention, and you need to really get this across on each of those. So one important benefit, as you can see really here at the bottom of this brochure, we're rated by companies such as AM Best. AM Best gives Primerica A+ rating. That's really huge. That just means, hey, look, we're a reputable company, we're superior, we met company standards, we don't have outstanding grievances, we don't have death claim issues. I love to highlight, A+ rating. Another big area is we have 5 million clients that we insure. 5 million clients, that is big. Most companies can't highlight 5 million clients. So Primerica is 130,000 strong. We're bigger than State Farm, Allstate combined. Those companies have about 25,000 agents each, and we're like quadrupling that industry. So it's a reason why we're the #1 producer of term life insurance. We're an industry leader, not because we want it that way. We do what's right. So we offer that 100% of the time. So AM Best, 5 million clients, and then you're going to go to the benefit side. So if you look here, there's a lot of benefits that we offer, okay, in our plans. Now here's some really unique benefits. This is a listing. I'm not going to ramble each listing off to the client, but here's some key ones that I am going to convey. Number 1, guaranteed insurability to age 95. So that's huge. Why may that be important? Well, let's just say you took out life insurance at age 30, okay? And it was a 35-year term. And you're now, 65, and you decide, hey, you know what? Maybe you had a $300,000 policy, but let's just say the client decides, they want to drop that down to $50,000, okay? So most companies will say, hey, look, you're at the end of the term, you're 65 years old, we're going to take blood, urine, we're going to put you through that underwriting process all over again, and Primerica says, hey, hold up, we guarantee this. So what that means is no underwriting whatsoever, we're going to give you what you want, as long as it's $300,000 and below, we're going to allow you to continue on with that $50,000, no questions asked whatsoever. Now, of course, the premium would be adjusted based on the age, but that's really huge, having that guaranteed insurability. Second thing that we usually check on every application is we check off what is called waiver of premium. Okay, so waiver of premium, that just means, hey, look, you probably learned that in class. If you're disabled for 6 months or longer, we're going to pick up the tab. So if you're paying, hey, $100 a month, $50 a month, and the client's out for any extended period of time that exceeds 6 months, that waiver of premium, you want to check that box on each and every application. So you're basically protecting your client. So, hey, they may have a premium of $50. They're on permanent disability or long-term disability. They don't have to pay that after 6 months. That's huge because we know income goes down typically when you're on disability. So that's the second thing. The third thing I'm going to always cover is I'm going to cover the 70% terminal illness benefit. That's a very, very unique benefit. I found so many plans that maybe the client was able to get something cheaper, but because of all Primerica's benefits and attributes, they were able to stick with the plan. They wanted it for that reason alone. They wanted it because, hey, look, you have a terminal illness benefit. That just means in the event, let's just say a client has a policy for $200,000. So you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, such as cancer, maybe heart disease, maybe Crohn's disease, some long terminal illness that's out of your control. The client now, if they had a $200,000 policy, 70% of that's basically saying, hey, the client can go get somewhere $50,000-$60,000 they can pull out of their plan. Once they're diagnosed with a terminal illness. That's huge. I mean, that just means, hey, look, you can use that money for medical expenses, maybe some debts. Sometimes people say, well, why did you want to pull money out of a policy? Well, if I gave you if you knew you had 6 months to live, and you knew that, hey, look, the difference between you living and dying had to do with income or cash, would you take it? Most people say, yeah, you better believe I'll go get it, So having some cash on hand makes a big difference for your family. So that terminal illness benefit is really significant. Third point I want to make sure that you clarify is that usually we do one policy for the whole family. So most agents are going to go into households. Sometimes you'll pick up like policies, like there'll be like 6 of them because they got 3 kids. Maybe the husband and wife has 2 on them each. The kids have policies. Agents make a heck of a lot more money because there's fees associated with every policy. So that's how they make their money, by putting multiple policies. Primerica says, hey, look, we're going to reduce your costs, take away all the flack. We're going to do one policy. We're going to add child rider, spouse rider. That's going to cover everything that we need, and your family is going to be taken care of. And then the last big one that I love to use on each and every call is that we reside in the Washington, D.C. metro area, so there's no war or terror clauses. How unfortunate. There's a great video out there. Just Google 9/11 Primerica. You'll see that Primerica came to the rescue of Americans on 9/11. We paid millions of dollars in death claims. We didn't question it. We didn't wait for the government to deem what is called an act of war. So that means if the government deems it as an act of war, well, life insurance companies have these little disclaimers in their plan that say, hey, in the event of an act of war, we don't technically have to pay out a policy. Primerica says, hey, you know what? Let's debunk that. We're going to do what's right. We paid out death claims right away. We had soldiers overseas in Kuwait and Iraq. I mean, they passed on their families. Hey, we delivered. We made sure that those families were taken care of. We didn't question, act of war and all that other stuff. We basically wanted to do what's right for our families. So you have 2 great products here that are being offered. And just know, as I mentioned, 98% of the time, you're going to be in the term zone. One thing I do want to mention to you, and this really evolves in the event. Let's just say you got a family who says, hey, you know what? I want $500,000 of coverage, or I want $1 million of coverage, okay? And this is usually what I'll do, the majority of time, and I'll explain this to a family. Essentially what I'll do is you can do a term now depending on the client's age. So if they're like, say, 40 years of age, you can do up to $300,000 on a term now. So usually if someone's going to have what is called, if they want a high amount of coverage, let's just say this person, as I mentioned, wants $1 million, or they want $500,000 of coverage. Well, what I could do is this. I can start them here with a term now plan, okay? So you may think, okay, well, why are you going to do that? And just bear with me. So I'm going to start them here with a term now plan, okay? What's going to happen is this. If I do this right away at the kitchen table, that just means this client's going to get approved for what? $300,000, right? No blood, no urine, no other medical things whatsoever. I'm going to get them approved, right? Relatively quickly, 3 to 5 days. Now, I can come back and do what is called a policy change, okay? It's a change application. It's a policy change. We'll be able to do that electronically real soon here. But I can do a policy change form change of what? Meaning I can increase the client, so I can do 300,000 term down, fill out a policy change. If they want to do above 300,000, it's automatically going to kick them to custom advantage. So therefore, I would put the increase of what I'm taking them up to, 200,000 or whatever, okay, policy change, and then submit that in. Now, why would you do that? Why would you take another step to really, start with term now and then add a policy change feature later? Well, a couple reasons. Number one is this. This is going to get my client taken care of right away. We know that over here, people have issues a lot of times scheduling, their medical exam. Okay, a nurse has to come out. They have to, they have to identify a time where the nurse he or she can come to their house. Sometimes they can come to work. My point is, sometimes this is delayed. So in theory, if your client passes away while you're waiting for, the medicals, Primerica's not liable. It's clearly, there's no conditional insurability in that. The only conditional insurability that we have is once we fulfill all those requirements. Once we fulfill the requirements of the medical, the blood and urine, we've answered the questions, there's nothing there. So essentially, if I do this, or if I do this way, I'm kind of putting the client's vulnerable. They're really exposed. But if I do a term now and then do a policy change app, if the client doesn't do this, let's just say they don't get these requirements done, in time. Because I mentioned here, this is 3 to 5 days. The company's going to basically give anywhere, they're going to give roughly like 120 days to get all the information in that is necessary. 120 days. That's a running cycle. So think of it here. If you're going to do a custom advantage, I promise it's going to take a lot longer. 2 months, sometimes 3 months. Sometimes maybe you may run into that 4th month because the client may be delayed on this. The APS is coming from their doctor, so the company has to send notification. We contract all of our medical stuff out to a company called Exam One, and we get the medical records from a company called EMSI. So if they take a long time to get that done, let's just say they don't fulfill this and get this done in time. Well, guess what? They're going to automatically punt it back to the one that I put in place initially. Very smart. So client doesn't get all the medical stuff done. I started them here. If this fails, they can come back here. But guess what? If I just put them all over here and started with an application under Custom Advantage, I take money. They don't fulfill all the requirements. They don't do everything they needed, and they don't fulfill that 120 days. They charge back. Primerica charges you back for your next sale. So we want to do things really strategic, and it makes a lot of sense. So I've really kind of covered some basics as far as our term products. You need to make sure on each and every call. You need to learn how to do a dime, okay? A DIME, basically their debts, their income, their mortgage, and their expenses. You need to know how to qualify exactly how much a client actually needs. If you go to the closing video, I talk a little bit more about that, about how to do that and how to qualify a client. But this here is very, very simplified. You're newly licensed. You'll learn exactly how to do this. You need to have, of course, your electronics. You need to have an iPad, preferably, or you can utilize your laptop, and it's going to allow you to do this. So, it'd be good for you to kind of go through a practice application, but from here, you're ready to launch in terms of knowing how each product works. I've gone through some basics today to really help you, and I know that if you listen to this again and again, you take some good notes, you'll be an expert in terms of really learning the differences between term down and Custom Advantage, and know how to really do the right thing for your client. So really thank you for your attention today, and good selling. I know you're going to impact and do some great things. God bless.